I feel personally like this is an option they took away with COVID for a variety of reasons. They could easily bring back and are choosing not to. And I think they need to bring it back. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. I just got back from a 7-night cruise out of Rome on the Disney Fantasy. We had stops in Greece and Italy. It was a fantastic journey. If you haven't already, make sure you check out all of the vlogs. But for today, what I wanted to do is give y'all my full review of the cruise itself. We're going to talk about the ship. We're going to talk a little bit about sailing in Europe, particularly sailing in Europe in the summertime. We're going to talk about who I think Disney Cruise Line is best for in Europe. I'm going to get to some of your questions. Let's dive right in. So my recent cruise, we sailed in and out of Civitavecchia, which is in Rome. It's actually a little like an hour away from Rome. I actually chose to fly in the day before, which I always recommend at least the day before for a European cruise. I would never fly in the day of. That just terrifies me. And then on the way home, I actually flew out the day that we disembarked. Our ports of call were Athens, Mykonos, Naples, and I'm missing one. I keep doing this every time. Sicily. I knew I'd get there eventually. Messina, Sicily. So 4 ports of call, 2 sea days, which I actually really loved as an itinerary. I was sailing in my own stateroom, but I was on board with my wonderful friend Adam, who I know a lot of you know. He actually did not vlog this trip, so if you're looking for his vlogs, you're not going to find them. I'm so sorry about that, but I hope that watching my vlogs gave you a little bit of a taste of what he was up to. He had like a well-deserved vacation, and I don't think any of us would disagree with that. I was actually very proud of him for doing that, so that made it really fun. So let's talk about my impressions overall of the different elements of the trip, starting with the ship itself, which is the Disney Fantasy. The Fantasy, I'm not sure if it's been in Europe before. Last year or a couple years ago, I was on the Dream in Europe, a similar itinerary to this one, couple of the same ports of call. But the Fantasy is quickly growing on me. It is in between as far as Disney ships go. You have the original, which is the Magic and the Wonder. Then you have the Dream class ships, which is the Dream and the Fantasy. And then you have the newer ships, which is the Treasure, the Wish, and the Destiny. And then you have the mega ship, the Adventure, that will only be sailing as of right now, as far as I know, in and out of Singapore. I will not be getting on that ship anytime soon. I've been on the Wish class. I've sailed on the Wish. I've sailed on the Dream many times. The Fantasy, this is my second time. They're almost identical, slightly different. And then the Magic and the Wonder are the original ships, and they're much smaller. They're a little bit older. I actually really like them. They're very quaint. They're very personable. But my kind of sweet spot is the Dream and the Fantasy. I find it's just the right amount of people. I think the ship holds around 3,000 passengers total. The crew is very friendly. There's plenty of open spaces for people, so it never really feels crowded. The adult areas are amazing. That might be my favorite plus to this particular category of ship. The way that the adult areas are in their own separate area, it's called Europa on the Fantasy, and you have several different adult-only venues in there. They have a wonderful nightclub. They had fantastic entertainment on our sailing. And one of you had asked, not in the like official Q&A, but just a DM to me over on Instagram, you were worried that the evening entertainment for adults would be all Disney all the time. And I just want to reassure anybody that's concerned about that sailing Disney Cruise Line, in the adults only area, aside from the like occasional joke that is around Disney or Disney IP, most of it has nothing to do with Disney. The entertainment that we saw, the Flyboys, although they did some mashups with Disney music, they also did tons of classic music, American rock and roll type music, modern music, all different kinds, all different genres. The dance club, same thing. It's not like you're going to the silent dance party and it's all Disney music, like far from it. Like if you go to karaoke, sure, some adults are going to sing Disney songs, but they're also going to do all kinds of other songs. And in like the adult spa area and the adult areas of the ship, the pool deck, Cove Cafe, all of that, no Disney music. It's all just like regular adult music. So I really love that. I love that if you go to the main areas of the ship, you're still, of course, going to get a huge Disney nod. But in the adult areas, they really tone it down. When I did the art of the theme tour, our guide was really it was great the way she described it. She said when people are in the adult areas, we really don't want them seeing Mickey Mouse and Goofy and Pluto. We really want them to have more of an adult vibe. And I think Disney does that so very well. So if you were worried about that on a Disney cruise, you needn't be. But I think the adult areas are really well done. The adult pool deck on the Dream class ships is absolutely wonderful. I actually don't like the way they did it on the Wish and on the that class of ship. You have the whole like first level adult pool area, then you have another pool deck, and then you have even another level above that. And I just found it to be very spacious. There was always a lounger available. The Satellite Falls pool area is hands down my favorite on the ship. That's where you're going to find me most of the time. If you're ever on a ship with me, you can go look for me up there. And I just think it's a great layout, especially for adults. So I can't speak to sailing on all of the ships with kids. The only one I've sailed on with my kids is the Dream, but it's the same layout. I know the kids clubs are really great. I hear really good reviews from my friends who have kids. So yeah, love the ship, love the layout, love the restaurants. I'm going to give some feedback about that when I get to the dining section. I loved the entertainment offerings. The Frozen show was on that ship. It's also on one other cruise ship. I can't remember which one right now, but it's a wonderful show. To me, it is not to be missed. The version of it that they've done at sea with the puppets, and it's so incredibly creative, and it's just beautiful, and I loved every second. Couldn't film because you're not allowed to film during the shows, but it's right now. Now, I haven't seen the Moana show yet, so everyone tells me I have to see that. But as of right now, it is my favorite performance at sea. So there you go, for what that's worth. And the quality was just really great. So let's talk about the stateroom really quick. My stateroom, my original stateroom, if you watch the vlogs, was an aft cabin. And I will tell you that if you go on various message boards, people will tell you the aft cabins are problematic on the Dream and on the Fantasy. There is a rumbling from the engines. And if it were consistent, it might not be that bad, but it's intermittent. And if you're trying to get somewhere throughout the night, it's this like intermittent rumbling. And it meant that I did not sleep at all. So I actually ended up moving from a deluxe ocean view stateroom that was aft to a more midship ADA, which is American with Disabilities Act, wheelchair accessible room, which was fantastic. The location was great. I didn't hear anything. It was a wonderful location. So if you are booking on the Fantasy, I think midship is definitely the sweet spot for where to have your cabin. For me personally, it was so bad that I don't know that I'll do a GTY again. And that's what I did for this sailing. And the way a GTY works, because someone always asks, I'm not even sure what the G, the T, and the Y stand for, but you pay a discounted fare and you are guaranteed you're going to get that class or higher. And I've gotten higher many times. What you can't do is pick the location of your stateroom. So I think after this experience, I've decided that for the Dream and the Fantasy, I want to pick the location of my stateroom because I don't want to risk being aft again. So that's just something for you to keep in mind. And then, of course, the stateroom, the bedding is incredible. The amenities in the room are great. It was very quiet in terms of like, I didn't hear my neighbors. And that was true in both staterooms. I find that to be true on cruises in general, just because the walls are so thick. I've never had an issue hearing my neighbors. So, you know, your experience may vary. Maybe I've just gotten really lucky, but I've never had an issue with noise in my stateroom on Disney Cruise Line. So as far as dining is concerned, you have Animator's Palette, you have the, Animator's Palette, Royal Court, Enchanted Garden. Those are your three venues on the Disney Fantasy. I like them all. I've not liked Enchanted Garden, and it actually really grew on me this trip. So I apologize, Enchanted Garden, if I've given you a hard time in the past. It feels, Enchanted Garden is on deck 2, I believe, so you feel a little bit like you're eating in the basement. I feel like the theming, this particular restaurant is on both the Dream and the Fantasy. I feel like the theming doesn't really land. I don't really get it. It's supposed to be based on Versailles, but then like the princesses, whatever. By the way, I think this would be amazing to have it rethemed to a Tiana theme. Just my 2 cents, especially because of the location. I feel like it would, you could kind of have that kind of mesmerizing little twinkle light thing going on, my opinion. Maybe they'll do that someday. But actually, of the 3 restaurants, I think that might have been my best experience on this ship. The food we had in there, we ate in every restaurant twice, yes, and one restaurant 3 times, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That math works. And Enchanted Garden was just lovely. Royal Court, always a win for me. I love the theming. I love the restaurant. I love the menu. Animator's Palette. If you watch the vlogs, you know. The food was very good, but y'all, the noise. And it's not me. Like, there were plenty of people around us that were way younger than me. There were kids covering their ears. Too freaking loud. And I have a solution, because I never like to just present a problem without also having a solution. Back in the day, before COVID, Disney used to offer casual dining. My working theory, which is based on nothing, is that the reason the entertainment gets so loud is because the restaurant itself gets so loud because there are so many people in the restaurant. And that's how loud it has to be for people to be able to hear the entertainment. But guess what happens? The music gets louder, the people get louder, the music gets louder, the people get louder. And before you know it, we are in an atmosphere that makes it almost impossible to eat in peace because it's just so freaking loud. Back in the day before COVID, this is my point, they offered casual dining at Cabanas. So whatever night, if your family didn't feel like going to the dining room, or in my case, me and Adam, we're a family when we're on the road, you could go instead to Cabanas and do casual dining. Now, I know some of you are like, Jen, you don't like the buffet. Stick with me in this logic. I think a lot of families, especially on a 7-night sailing, would choose the casual dining option. If more people chose the casual dining option, okay, stay with me, you would have fewer people in the dining room. If you had fewer people in the dining room, you could turn down the volume of the entertainment and the entire experience would improve. I feel personally like this is an option they took away with COVID for a variety of reasons. They could easily bring back and are choosing not to, and I think they need to bring it back. I know you still have an option to get pizza or a burger or whatever at the restaurants, the little food court thing that is on the pool deck. I get that. I just think it's outdoors. A lot of families would really like to be in Cabanas to get their kids dinner. If maybe they're off on their meal times or they had a really long excursion or whatever. This is something that they do on Virgin. This is something that they do on Viking, and it's something that Disney used to do and they need to bring back. Comment below if you're with me. Disney, bring back casual dining. Okay, there you go. Ports of call. It is going to be challenging if you are going in the summertime to Europe. Well, not if you're going to Norway. If you're going to Greece and Italy in the summertime, it is going to be challenging in terms of heat. I knew that going in. I'm not new to this. This is the latest I've ever been. 2 years ago when Adam and I went, it was like end of May into the beginning of June. This is the first time I've gone solidly in June. Disney only sails in Europe in the summer. So what I'm going to say next is going to be a bit of a challenge. But personally, if you can avoid it, and I realize I have teachers, I have people who have kids in school, totally get that, totally empathetic to that situation. That was me for years and years and years. But if you can choose differently, which I can, you should choose differently. I would either choose a cruise line in Europe that goes in the spring or early fall, Or I would choose like one of those very first Disney sailings, or maybe, I don't know when the last one, I think they might have one as late as September. But if you can avoid June, July, and August, if there's any way you cannot be in Rome and Athens and Mykonos in June, July, and August, take advantage of that opportunity. I think you will have a much better trip. You'll have better weather. You'll have lower crowds. And the crowds just make everything very, very challenging. I feel like I expressed this pretty well through the vlogs, so I won't, beat a dead horse, which I hate that expression. I don't even know why I said that. Just try to avoid it if you can, especially if you have kids. I feel like adults can kind of get into their happy place and handle it better. Children are gonna struggle. They're just gonna struggle. There was one little toddler on our ferry over to Capri, and I felt so sorry for him. Bless his heart. He was very uncomfortable. He was hot. He was tired. And I kind of was like, buddy, I get it. I'm with you. I get it. So that is just something to keep in mind. And yeah, I personally, if there was any other time I could sail or go to Greece and Italy, I would go during those times. Okay, let's dive into some of your questions. Y'all asked a lot of questions, so there's absolutely no way I'm gonna get to all of them. By the way, I asked over on Instagram. If you're not already following me there, I would love for you to. It's Gemma Forge. So the first question was, one piece of advice for first-time cruisers. My first ever cruise is next month on the Fantasy. I would say, and this is a little self-serving, don't overpack. I have never talked to someone on a cruise who felt like they didn't pack enough, but I talked to dozens of people almost every day, either when I'm traveling or through DM, who tell me that they are constantly overpacking for their cruise. You can wear things more than once. Usually you have access to laundry. Disney actually had a deal that I wasn't offered, but both Adrian and Adam were, where they had like this $25 special for laundry. You can get laundry done when you're on the ship. No one is going to notice if you wear the same outfit twice. And I understand that for some of you, like the fashion is a big part of it, but I would contend there is a way to still do that and pack light. It's just lovely, especially on a European trip, to have less to keep track of, to have less to manage. It just lowers my stress. So I would say don't overpack. Like, pack everything you think you're going to pack, take it all out, put it on the bed with an objective eye, and take out like half of it because you really won't need it. And I intend to do a whole nother video about things I packed that worked and things that didn't. But I will tell you, even packing as minimally as I did, I did end up buying one new dress and a pair of pants, but I could have easily not done that and still felt absolutely fine with my choices. So yeah, don't overpack. That's the first thing. You know what? I'm going to add something. You said one piece of advice. The second one is don't overschedule yourself, which with my ports of call, these 8 and 9 hour port of call days, I don't know what I was thinking. I think they were not that long when I booked them. I think it was due to the traffic in the locations, and that is why they were extended. I think maybe the Capri one was that long, but the Corinth one was not that long when we booked it. But the traffic in the summer is ridiculous, and just be prepared to spend a lot of time on buses, because at least, and it was like 2 hours out to our destination. So it was an 8-hour excursion, and like 3.5 hours of it we were on buses, which is not great. So really think about your energy, and I would say do half-day excursions whenever possible. I wish I had listened to that for myself. So that leads into another great question. Tips for managing excursions on your own, exploring, and when to choose which option. I would say really research your ports of call. I think that Messina was a great option for exploring on your own. Mykonos is a fantastic option for exploring on your own. See if you can figure out what the transportation is like. Mykonos, for example, there's a ferry that Disney pays for that takes you straight from the ship into town. Very easy. Everything there is very walkable. I 100% don't, especially if it's your first time in Mykonos, you do not need an excursion in that port of call. You can walk around, you can walk to the windmills, you can walk around Little Venice, you can see all of those things. So I think just research the ports of call in advance, see if you can watch some YouTube videos and kind of see what the situation is, And don't be too scared unless you're going on some far-flung excursion that's like hours away from the ship about the whole not getting back in time, especially if you book something that's just in the morning. So for example, if you're in a port of call from like 8 a.m. until 7 p.m., which is kind of normal, book something that's supposed to end at like 1 or 2. You're going to be fine. You're going to be back on the ship in plenty of time. And based on what I said earlier, doing a half-day excursion instead of a full day is probably a good idea anyway. Come back on the ship, enjoy an empty ship, and just kind of pace yourself well. I've made this mistake now twice of my last 2 cruises. I just booked myself too busy. So maybe we should apply the same thing to excursions as we did to what we pack. Think about everything you want to do and then take out like half of it and give yourself a lot more margin to just chill. I'm just saying. Okay, here is a question. Is concierge ever really worth it? I have sailed concierge exactly once on Disney Cruise Line, and I'm going to say no. My friend Sarah and I did concierge for the Disney Vacation Club member cruise. And although we loved it, it was double the cost. So for the same cost of concierge, of us sharing a cabin in concierge, we could have each had our own stateroom. And it's lovely. The lounge is lovely. I just didn't feel like I took advantage of it enough. There's a lot of extra food offerings. I don't need any more food on a Disney cruise. There's a lot of extra alcohol offerings. I don't drink that much on a Disney cruise. And although the team in the concierge lounge is lovely and the pool deck is awesome, for how much more it costs, I just don't think it's worth it. And I'm not looking to book it anytime soon. So that's just, I would rather, like you could do a whole nother cruise. You could do 2 cruises for what it would cost you to do 1 cruise concierge. And to me, no, it's just not worth it. It's lovely. They do a great job. It's not a reflection on Disney. It's just the cost is just crazy to me. I mean, if it was like your honeymoon or something, okay, maybe, but I even then, add on a day at a really bougie resort, and you could do that for the same cost as upgrading to concierge. Just my thoughts. Thoughts on Disney Cruise Line for young adults plus parents as a family trip. Sons 18, 23, 26, 29. Love. Absolutely love. Because I think that some of the happiest people you'll see on Disney Cruise Line, 2 sets of people. Solo travelers or adults sailing with friends. Also, extended families with their young adult kids. It is lovely to see. The adult venues are so much fun. You can hang out together as a family. They can hang out alone. You've got all of these beautiful options. I think a cruise in general, and particularly if your family has grown up going to Disney, right? And you have a lot of Disney memories, this is such a great like crossover. Plus, if you're the planner, you don't have to do anything other than picking out ports of call for whatever you want to do when you're doing excursions. As far as the ship itself, nobody's cooking, nobody's cleaning, nobody's having to, it's just easy. It's just easy. And it's another, it would be akin to like if you rented a big beach house. Okay, great. But then who's cooking? Who's picking up after everyone? Who's doing all the meal planning? Who's planning all the activities? That's a lot of work, and somebody's got to do all that work. A cruise, all of that is taken care of. I think it's a fabulous value. I would love to get all 3 of my sons and their partners on a cruise. I think it would be so much fun. I know they would love it. It is on my dream bucket list. Yes, 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 you should do that. I always get a lot of questions about motion sickness. Thoughts for people that have motion sickness. Can they tolerate a cruise ship? Yes, you can. I get motion sickness on like VR rides, but I don't get seasick. So if you do get seasick though, a lot of people swear by those bands. There's a medicine you can take. There's a shot you can get if it's really bad. There are lots of options, but the modern ships with the stabilizers, you generally don't feel the movement very much, and you just don't see people getting sick. At least I don't, and I've been on a lot of cruises at this point, but you do see a lot of people wearing those C-bands, and people really swear by them, so that is something for you to look into. But just because you get motion sick, and even if you get sick on like a smaller boat, don't assume that you're going to get sick on a big cruise ship. it's just really not a thing. And you hear people complain about it so little that I'm not going to say it's never going to happen, but I will say it's not likely to happen. And you can always go see the ship's surgeon. I think that's what they're called. They don't really do surgery, but that's what it's called, the surgery. And they can, give you remedies down there, but I think you will be absolutely fine. Where do you recommend getting accommodations on a cruise ship, i.e. mid, front, or back? Midship is always going to be your best bet to me, both for movement and to mitigate noise. You also might want to make sure you're not directly below the big dining venue or the big pool deck, something to consider. Disney Cruise Line, things get done pretty early. So unless you're going to bed really early or you have kids going to bed really early, that's probably going to be less of a consideration. Although I will say I have been on deck 9 on the Dream, and you could hear was it deck 10? Whatever deck is right below the pool deck, you could hear them moving the deck chairs around really early in the morning. So that might be something to consider. But I feel like midship, I really like decks like 7, 8, and 9 on the Dream and on the Fantasy. Can't go wrong. Can't go wrong. Family with teen, never cruised before. Would DCL be good fit if only doing one cabin? I think absolutely, both for the reasons I said before about young adults and also because of the split bathroom and the way it's set up with a privacy curtain. I have sailed with my kids in the stateroom. I've also sailed with friends multiple times, and having the curtain the way that it is really makes it feel more private. So I would highly recommend it. I think it's laid out really, really well for families. And for a teenager to be able to have some privacy. I would get a veranda because that does give you like one more space so everyone can kind of find their own space. I will tell you to get ready to not see them. All of my friends who have teenagers, those kids are in the kids club the whole time, and they have made like lifelong friends. And it's really, I hear stories. I got to watch it when we sailed with our friends. If you saw that cruise, their daughter, Anna, like every single cruise, everybody just gets to know each other, and it's really kind of a cool environment. So it's just something to consider. What ship itinerary would you recommend for a first-time cruiser? I always get asked this. I really like the Dream and the Fantasy. I think the Wish is great. I don't love that there's no deck 4 to walk all the way around. I know it sounds silly to some, but to me, it's a really big part of the experience. But I really think just go with whatever works for your schedule. Length of cruise, as a first-time cruiser, I would not do less than a 4-night and preferably a 5-night. And it could be that because a 5-night was what I did for my first cruise, I feel like you need at least 4 nights to even get used to being on the ship. And not in terms of like motion sickness, but in terms of like just how everything works and finding your way around and feeling comfortable and getting to know the crew and all of that. I love that this was a 7-night. For me, though, a 5-night is 100% my sweet spot. I think a 5-night is like perfect. Itinerary, I wouldn't do like the Caribbean in the summer or during hurricane season because it's just too hot and humid. But I think whatever you want to see, that's what you should do. I think if you are first time cruising and you really want to find out if cruising is for you, I would consider doing something that's not like an adventurous cruise, like a European cruise or an Alaska cruise. I would choose doing a cruise that is a little more chilled and gives you at least 2 sea days to really decide if you like cruising. And if it doesn't give you 2 sea days, turn one of the days in a port of call into a sea day for you. Like if it's going to Nassau, I mean, unless you've always been dying to see Nassau, maybe make that a day where you stay on the ship. But I think just go. Just pick what works with your schedule. I wouldn't be too ambitious. I would just do a very gentle cruise to start out with to see if you like it. Also benefit, the Alaska and European cruises usually are a lot more expensive, so you don't really want to do that until you're sure you love cruising. But if I were to be telling someone, like my best friend, it's your first cruise, what would you do? I would say do Dream or Fantasy, find a 5-night that's out of a port that's convenient for you, and just go and enjoy and see what you think. Okay, I'm going to end with this question because I really liked it. And I think it's really a good way to kind of end the review for this particular cruise. Who is a Disney Cruise Line European cruise best and worst for? Who is it best for? I think it is best for people with like elementary school age kids that want to give their kids a taste of Europe. I think it is so beneficial for families to cruise in Europe because it gives kids like it won't be completely foreign to them as they get older. I think it can be wildly educational, although really temper that. Like, don't schedule a whole day of museums with a first grader. That's not going to go well. Kind of think of planning like you would if you were doing a field trip for the elementary school. But it's such a great way to expose them to new places with the comfort of the same bed every night, food that they're familiar with. You know, you could take them off the ship and take them to some great restaurant in Italy and they may not eat anything. And you know in the back of your mind they can still get chicken tenders back on the ship, you know? That kind of thing. I think it's a great taste of. I also think it's a great taste of if you have never sailed in Europe and if you're a little insecure. Planning a trip to Europe is wildly stressful and can feel super overwhelming. A cruise allows you to handle that in a very manageable way. You don't have all of the options. You just have a few options. You can make some choices. Don't be me. Don't overschedule yourself. But if you're a grown-up who wants to do Europe, but you're anxious about all of the logistics, I think a cruise is a fabulous way to go. Disney does a great job. Viking does a great job. I'm actually hoping to sail on some other cruise lines. I don't know if it will be in Europe, but if I do that, I'll bring y'all reviews of those. But I think anybody who's anxious to travel to Europe, it's great for you. I also think it's great for people who want to go to Europe and maybe want to do a land and sea type trip, where maybe you're going to do like the big cities and then you're going to end with a cruise and maybe you're just going to be a little more chill, maybe even do a transatlantic coming back. Oh my gosh, that would be incredible. We met quite a few people who were doing 2 or 3 back-to-back sailings on the Disney Fantasy. So they were just gonna be in Europe for 3 weeks. And I kind of loved that because they were there 3 weeks, but they could choose different excursions every time they were in the same ports of call. They could take the days when they just kind of needed a break and stay on the ship, but they had like this amazing itinerary planned. That's not really something I would think of at this point in my life, but if Scott and I were retired, although I told Adam, Scott doesn't really love cruising. He likes it, but he doesn't love it. So what I'll probably do next time I do a European sailing is I'll go to Europe with Scott, we'll do a European vacation, then I will hop on a transatlantic to come back to the United States. Mostly because I watched An Affair to Remember too much as a kid, although I promise I would be faithful to my husband. There would be no issues with that. But the whole the drama of the transatlantic and also the way you wouldn't have to deal with jet lag because your body is slowly moving back to time in the US. I don't know. I kind of love that idea. Comment below what you think about that. So I think a Disney cruise in Europe is great for a lot of people. I think if you're an experienced European traveler, it might not be for you. I think you might get frustrated with the fact that you're not getting to eat as much food as you might like from Europe because you're eating Disney Europe food, right? You're eating the same food that they have when they go to Grand Cayman or Cozumel or wherever. But I do think it's a lot of fun. I also recommend it if you have friends that live in the UK and the only way you can see them on a cruise is to meet them there. All right, whatever you're doing today, I hope you're finding joy. I hope this video gave you some great information. If you haven't already subscribed, it would mean the world to me. I have a stretch goal of 100,000 subscribers this year, and I cannot do it without your help. So if you've been watching this series and you haven't yet subscribed, now would be a fantastic time. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. I could not do this without you. Huge shout out to my patrons. You know how important you are to me. And if you want to join us on Patreon, everything you know to get started is down in the description box. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.